you know what? When you and I take up this call and we talk about abortion, if we speak about it in church, we're told we're too political. If we speak about it in the political arena, we're told we're too religious. If we speak about it in the world of the media, it's too disturbing. In the world of business, it's too distracting. In the world of education, it's too controversial. In the streets, it's too disruptive. So abortion, if abortion is wrong, where do we go to say so? We go into the churches, we go into politics, into the media, into business, into education, and into the streets. Some churches haven't wanted to get involved in political hassles with the government, so they've been silent on abortion. They didn't want to get involved in hassles from the government. They didn't want to take the fight to the government. So now with the HHS mandate, the government took the fight to them. And when it comes to that mandate, we've got a simple message. We will obey God rather than men. As Alveda can tell us, her uncle said one day to the civil rights movement, we've got a lot of obstacles in our way, but we're not going to let anything turn us around. We're not going to let no dogs turn us around, no water hoses turn us around, no police clubs or jail sentences, and we're not going to let any injunctions turn us around. And so today I say to you, in the pro-life movement, no Planned Parenthood is going to turn us around. No biased media is going to turn us around. No HHS mandate is going to turn us around. No Obama administration is going to turn us around. We are marching for a certainty. And it's not only the certainty that we will arrive at the day of victory for the unborn, it is a certainty that the power which now dismembers them and crushes them and throws them in the garbage is a power which at its root has already been defeated.
Well, I'll tell you, Father Frank, it's amazing that we're actually sharing the stage with you. When Jason and I were kids, we met you in 1988.
Yes.
You look the exact same. He's got the same hair, the same glasses, and the same outfit. In 1991, that was the height of abortion. It was 2,197 freestanding abortion clinics in America. Today, thanks to the work of Priests for Life and other organizations and Christians and Catholics joining hands and uniting for life, there are less than 600 freestanding abortion clinics in America.
friends. Father Frank here, National Director of Priests for Life. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for all the comments that I'm already seeing on the screen. And Dana, thanks for the greetings from Staten Island. I haven't been there in a while, of course, all during this pandemic. We, haven't been traveling, but thank you. And thanks for all of you from all different parts of the country and the world. Jan is asking a nice question. What one Bible verse would you use for hope and love? Well, one of them would be the passage that Jesus said just before ascending into heaven. Behold, I am with you always until the end of the world. Because when he says, I am with you, that embodies both hope and love. He's with us because he loves us, and I am with you really defines the gospel. You know, at the beginning of Matthew's gospel, it says, he shall be called Emmanuel, a name which means God is with us. And then he lives that out in showing his love for everyone. I am with you. I'm not far from you. I'm not against you. I'm not absent from you. I'm with you, even in the darkest moments and in the most difficult challenges and losses. And then that love brings hope. I am with you always. So I will be until the end of time. So that's one of the many verses that one could quote in that regard. So good evening to everybody. Dan is here. We were in college seminary together, and many other people that follow us regularly. Welcome to all. So let's pray. Today, in my book, Pro-Life Reflections for Every Day, I put a verse from Matthew 10, whoever gives even a cup of cold water to one of these little ones will not go unrewarded. And then reflection. As Terry Shivo was dying, a police officer was in the room at all times, making sure that nobody gave Terry even a drop of water. A vase of flowers sat on her night table. Those flowers were being nourished, and a human being was not. How upside down is the culture of death. How offensive is the cruelty we show to the weak and to the vulnerable. Let us pray. Have mercy on your people, Lord. Bring an end to the cycle of blindness and violence around us. Amen. ProLifeReflectionsForEveryday.com is where you can get this book. I was there in the room with Terry Shivo, as most of you know. She is the woman who was brain injured and was then deprived of basic care by her estranged husband, who took over her all their medical decisions from the immediate family of her mom, dad, brother, and sister. And through the courts, got them to deprive her of food and water. It wasn't an end-of-life situation because she wasn't dying. Being brain injured, not being able to function in all the ways that we all normally function, doesn't mean you're dying. Her body was healthy. She wasn't connected to any kind of machines or life support at all. And still, the court ordered that she not be given anything. So, a lot of important questions already coming up. Let me answer Mary Ann. How do we help President Trump win in 2020? Well, first of all, it's crucially important, obviously, that we do that. And whom do you know? Whom can you influence? That's the question each of us has to ask. Are there people in our circle of friends, acquaintances, coworkers, relatives, who think the way that we do? Think in terms, first of all, of folks who think the way that you do, believe in the things you believe in. Pro-life, religious freedom, people who may lean towards a more conservative Republican view of things, people whom maybe you know that they like President Trump or voted for him the first time or are happy with the things he has done. Seek those people out now, in these days now. Make sure that they are registered to vote. And one of the ways you can do that is go to the website called checkyourvoterregistration.com. We set up that domain, and it goes to a page that is set up by the National Association of Secretaries of State, and it will show you a little form where you can check and see if your registration's up to date. And if it's not, you can go to the website of your particular state, their election website, and it'll give you instructions what you have to do. We have to make sure people are registered to vote before the voter registration deadlines come, which are going to come in late September and during October. Then make sure that they do vote. And then in the meantime, give them some information about how well President Trump has done. And one of the places you can go to see that, even though it's just a partial list, is promiseskept.com. Promiseskept.com. What can you do to help President Trump be reelected? Remember these 3 websites. The 2 I gave you already. Checkyourvoterregistration.com to make sure you and other people that you can influence are registered. Secondly, promiseskept.com. Show people the great accomplishments of the president and his administration. He's done things that no president has ever done before. He's broken all kinds of records. And remind them, he brought our economy to the strongest point it's ever been. He's the best person to bring it back again after this terrible pandemic has ruined so many things. But it is coming back. The jobs in the last 3 months that have been restored in America, do you realize that it's broken a record for any 3-month period, far beyond the projections that had been made by the experts? The amount of jobs that have been brought back, 9 million jobs. Yeah, this is amazing. He's bringing it back. We have to give him a chance to continue doing that. And there are so many other kinds of reasons. Phyllis is saying, my daughter said several of her old college friends who haven't voted in the past, are voting for Trump. Now, let me tell you, Phyllis, why that's so important that you said that. But first, that's the third website, prolifevote.com. That's our main election website. And one of the things you can do, friends, is, when you watch our programs here, one of the things we do, and we believe it's a very good way to educate voters, is that we show the speeches of the president. This afternoon, we broadcast a beautiful rally that he gave for young people in Arizona just a few months ago. Listen, we're ready to help you. We need to do it together. That's the key thing. And that's why we set up prolifevote.com, because there's all sorts of things there, information you can share, all kinds of ideas. And one of you was mentioning, of course, social media is so important to do. But in terms of the accomplishments, one of you earlier was asking, what has he done for the Right to Life movement? Let me tell you, he's done more than any public official has ever done. And we've been working with public officials in this movement for 30 years. He's done more than any of them have ever done. And he, what the biggest and first thing he did for the Right to Life movement was? He kept Hillary Clinton out of the White House. Because had she gotten in, she was just like all these federal Democrat candidates, with exceptions you can fit on half of one hand. They're all just extreme pro-abortion people. And he kept her out, but then he took billions, he protected billions of dollars, not millions, billions, from going into the abortion industry. That's one of the first and most doable things that pro-life government officials can do, is they can stop money from pouring into the abortion industry. There's more that needs to be done, but at least he did that. And he has put all kinds of measures in place by executive order. For example, stopping research the funding of research that uses aborted babies. And that's going to tie into something we're going to talk about tonight here when we start talking about Kamala Harris. And the president has stopped that, because that unfortunately incentivizes more abortions. He has protected the conscience rights of doctors and nurses that don't want to be involved in abortion, and medical students and any healthcare professionals. He's actually established a special office in the federal government to take complaints when people are being pressured, as they are every day, in medical schools and in various healthcare facilities. Oh, it's just, he's done, here's where you can go to see a bigger list of the things that he's done for pro-life. You ready? ProLifePresident.com. ProLifePresident.com. Go there. It's a website we prepared, and that answers the question in even more detail. Peggy is asking, Father Frank, how should I respond? I don't normally do this, but I know you're a devout Catholic. Joe Biden is devout Catholic. Trump has now stated that Biden is against God. Well, Peggy, Biden is in his practices against God. What do I mean? He oppresses the church. Now that might sound crazy. What do you mean he oppresses the church? When he was vice president, Obama, and he was right there as part of the administration, issued a mandate that affected us and affected countless other employers across America, telling us we had to include certain forms of abortion in the health insurance plans we give our employees. And we said no. But they said, oh, we're going to fine you. We're going to punish you every single day for every employee that you don't give coverage for early abortions. We had to fight it in court. We were one of the very first groups to challenge that mandate in court. We were followed by literally hundreds of other groups. Went all the way up to the Supreme Court more than once. In the end, we won. But you know what? It was because of President Trump. He took that provision out of the mandate. Took it out. And he said, you have to be able to live your faith. That's why I have his picture here. If as I say, if he weren't where he is, we wouldn't be where we are. He literally protected our ministry. And, my goodness, he literally protected our ministry, and not just Catholic ministries, but Christian ministries all across the country. Now, ask Joe Biden which baby in the womb he would be willing to protect. What do you think? I spent, by the way, go back to last night's program. It's there. It's there, saved on these platforms. I spent a whole hour talking about why Joe Biden is not a devout Catholic. A whole hour. Obviously, I'm not going to repeat that now. But ask him what child in the womb he's willing to protect. There's none. And propose to him various scenarios. 7th month of pregnancy, viable baby, healthy mother, healthy child. Abortion just for convenience, abortion just for sex selection, abortion for any reason. Right now, he has a 100% rating from Planned Parenthood, the nation's largest abortion business, and a 0% rating from the National Right to Life Committee. He does nothing to protect babies in the womb, the most vulnerable children among us. And what does that have to do with God, and what does that have to do with faith? Well, not only does he not want to protect them, he wants us to pay for the killing of these children. And Scripture says something very clear about that. God hates the shedding of innocent blood. God hates the shedding of innocent blood. You know what President Trump says? Every child is made in the holy image of God. Every child. Born and unborn. Now, Patricia's saying, the media is saying he's personally against abortion. And our response to him is, we don't care. We don't care. We don't even want to know. We don't care what you personally believe. We want to know what you're going to do to protect these babies. See, they're saying that to make him look good. And he's saying it because he's saying, oh, well, I accept the teachings of my church. But he doesn't. What do I mean by he doesn't? Because the teaching of the church is not simply that you should be against abortion. The teaching of the church is you got to protect those babies. He's not willing to do that. He doesn't believe he should protect them. Believing that it's a child And being personally opposed to abortion doesn't save a single baby. The question, the challenge we have to give to him is, look, you're asking for our vote? Why? He wants the highest office in the land. What are you going to do with it? Now, we have 3 branches of government, so no one branch of government has absolute power, so it's not like a president can wave a magic wand and just protect all these babies, but a president can do a lot, and if a bill is brought to his desk, he can sign it or he can veto it. And President Trump has been asking the Congress, send me a bill to sign to protect these babies from abortion. That would be done in several stages, and the first step is a bill, well, first of all, to protect the babies who survive abortion. Biden doesn't even want to do that. So the question for him is not, do you oppose abortion? I couldn't care less what he thinks. The question is, you want the highest office in the land. That brings a lot of power with it. What are you going to do with that power? Are you going to protect human life or not? And that's the problem. He's not willing to actually protect these babies. Okay, and there's a lot of other problems too. And that leads us into the question of Kamala Harris. Someone was asking, I'm sure many of you are wondering, what do I think about this choice that he announced today of Kamala Harris? Well, I had said today, and I had said it in previous days, it doesn't matter who he chooses. Now he's told us who he chose. But it doesn't matter. You know why it doesn't matter? Because it's not just about Joe Biden, it's not just about Kamala Harris. It's about their vision for America. It's not just about who sits in the White House and who sits in the vice president's office. It's about who sits down the hall and across the street and in the courtrooms where they're going to appoint judges. That's what matters. That's what we have to be paying attention to. No matter whom he chose for vice president, the party platform of the Democrats is still just as extreme and just as dangerous for America and harmful to the church and destructive of these children and destructive of our borders and of our economy and of our veterans and of our military and of our international relationships and of our trade deals. That platform, those policies, that worldview is just as corrupt and dangerous, just as much outside the mainstream of America as it would ever be. So in that sense, it doesn't make any difference who he would put in that position. Now, he did put her, which gives us more and more evidence of what we've been seeing all along. That this notion that some people have that Biden is some kind of moderate is complete nonsense. Look at the kind of person he chose. She reflects that extremism of the Democrat Party. She was one of the first ones to sign on and co-sponsor Bernie Sanders' $32 trillion takeover of health care. She was one of the first Democrats to sign on to that with him. Now, some of you are mentioning our friend David Daleiden. He was the undercover journalist, one of the undercover. He was joined in that by another great woman, Sandra Merritt, and they put together a team of people who went undercover to the conference. This is not the first time it had been done, but it got more attention than the previous times it has been done. They went undercover to the conferences of abortion practitioners and Planned Parenthood. They went inside Planned Parenthood facilities, and they uncovered the practice, again, that had been uncovered before by our friend Mark Crutcher. In fact, I was involved in that effort with him some 20 years ago. But David uncovered this practice of the actual selling of body parts of these babies. Go back to 2015, these tapes came out. Now, a lot of this filming was done in California. Guess who was first prosecutor in San Francisco? And by the way, when she was district attorney in San Francisco, she released violent criminals onto the street, this Kamala Harris, and crime went up in the city. And Trinidad, you know, it's not... What happens when a state commits murder? What is the church supposed to say? That this is very important if people understand, you know, why is a priest talking about politics? This is a priest talking about morality. And just so happens that politics is not a morality-free business. It's not like, oh, well, once you go into politics, nobody has to say anything about what's right or wrong, right? I mean, do politicians ever do anything wrong, Trinidad? Do they do anything wrong? And are we, who are supposed to be ordained to teach right from wrong, teach what God's word says, not only about individuals, but about nations? So we're not supposed to point out what is good and condemn what is evil? Come on. This is what we're doing here. Talking about Kamala Harris and what she did with the pro-life people who were doing this investigating of a baby-killing business, Trinidad, a baby-killing business. You don't support killing babies, right? A baby-killing business. Selling the brains. What do you think of that? You want to vote for people who sell babies' brains? She was defending Planned Parenthood. She ordered a raid on the home of David and grabbing all his computers and his videos. Oh, don't show these videos to anybody. Why? Oh, because they show that my friends are doing terrible things. They're chopping up babies and then they're selling their brains and they're selling their hearts and they're selling their livers. Friends, we've got the order forms. The order forms with the FedEx number on it and everything. For the brains, for the hearts, for the livers, for the legs of these babies that Kamala Harris's friends, Planned Parenthood, killed and sold. Oh, but no, she didn't have 1 ounce of trouble in her conscience that they were doing that. She had trouble in her conscience that David Daleiden was breaking the law, so she said, by, oh, listen how awful this is, by videotaping people that they didn't know they were being videotaped. Now, I'm all in favor of following the law. But straining the gnat, swallowing the camel, you think that might apply here? Kamala Harris. Oh, and guess what she was doing? Guess what she was doing while she was doing Planned Parenthood's bidding by prosecuting David Daleiden? Guess what she was doing at the same time? She was Attorney General of California, but she was running for the U.S. Senate. And guess who was raising funds for her? Planned Parenthood. This is the kind of caliber of person that Biden has now chosen for VP. Well, some of you asked me earlier, let's tell David Daleiden's story, and of course I'm telling some of it here, but we've got a clip of a interview that he did for EWT, and there's a lot of details about this story, and of course I was living through this with him at the time. In fact, David came to a number of pro-life leaders before any word got out about his findings. As he was doing it, as he was gathering this information on Planned Parenthood, he came to me and told me about it, and he sought the advice of various of us who were pro-life leaders, and so I knew that the whole thing was unfolding. But he did an interview with EWT, and I want to show you a little clip of it now. Very revealing as we hear the news today about Kamala Harris, Senator Harris of California, being chosen to run for vice president. Let's watch David.
David Daleiden is the pro-life citizen journalist behind the Center for Medical Progress and its undercover Planned Parenthood videos. We sat down with him last week to get the latest on his legal battles, and it became clear very quickly that Daleiden had a number of legal run-ins with former California Attorney General and now a Democratic presidential candidate, Kamala Harris. That's where we pick up our conversation for this week's Pro-Life Focus. Tell us more about your encounters with her and a raid on your apartment.
Yeah. So in April of 2016, at the behest of Planned Parenthood, Kamala Harris ordered a search warrant served on my home in Orange County. I think it was a total of 11 agents of the California Department of Justice sent by Kamala Harris came in, overturned my entire one-bedroom apartment. They seized all of the video recording equipment, all of my computer equipment, everything that was, all the electronic equipment that was used to do the undercover filming. Fortunately, there were backup hard drives, and attorneys had copies of stuff and other things. So they didn't take anything that I absolutely needed in order to continue to do my work, but they primarily they were looking for the videos, and they were looking for the original videos. We have in the investigator notes from the Attorney General's office now, they recorded in their case notes Planned Parenthood specifically requesting of Kamala Harris's office that they would specifically go in and seize the videos from me. So they were trying to take all the raw footage away and trying to do a huge cover-up. They weren't successful at doing that, but that's just one of many things that Kamala Harris, as Attorney General of California, was willing to do to put the powers of her law enforcement office at the service of the interests of a powerful and favored political backer at Planned Parenthood.
That being said, she is a likely 2020 presidential candidate. What do you want viewers to know about her as we see that she will likely run?
Yeah, I just saw her recently on, I think it was MSNBC, talking about the confirmation hearings of William Barr, who's the new nominee for Attorney General. And Senator Harris was opining that really nominee Barr, if confirmed, probably she thinks should recuse himself from the Russia investigation because of some op-eds he's written about the Mueller probe or something like that. Well, when Kamala Harris had the Planned Parenthood case, which was the investigation of me, brought before her as Attorney General, while she was running for U.S. Senate, while Planned Parenthood in California was contributing to her political campaign and she was fundraising for them, fundraising off of her goodwill with Planned Parenthood for her senatorial campaign, did she recuse herself from the Planned Parenthood investigation? No, she didn't. In fact, she didn't even set up, they sometimes talk about having a wall of separation in the prosecutor's office in order to make sure that there's no improper crossover. Not only did she not recuse, did she not set up a wall of separation, she consciously and willfully involved herself directly and personally in the Planned Parenthood case. She had an in-person meeting with 6 Planned Parenthood executives from California in Los Angeles 2 weeks before the raid on my apartment. We have the action item notes and the email from her assistant from that meeting.
Wow.
They show that among the Planned Parenthood folks present, 2 of them were witnesses in the criminal investigation that Kamala Harris's office was orchestrating against me and Sandra. And they show that the agenda items that Kamala Harris discussed with those Planned Parenthood witnesses and representatives at that meeting included both Planned Parenthood's political agenda in California and issues in the criminal investigation. So there was a direct mixing of her political roles and political agenda and campaign agenda and political agenda of an outside third party, directly mixed in, inseparable from her role as a law enforcement officer.
That is some powerful insight right there. You mentioned William Barr. He is currently in the confirmation process for him to become potentially the next Attorney General of the United States. He's a fellow Catholic as well. If he is in fact confirmed, what action would you like to see him take and for the Department of Justice to take on Planned Parenthood?
I really hope that the Department of Justice will start to do its job and hold Planned Parenthood accountable to the law the same way that any other organization or any other entity should be held accountable to the law. I think there's a great irony of the past 2 years here with the Department of Justice that DOJ and FBI have been rather vigorously investigating and prosecuting a group of Native Americans in North and South Dakota who were trafficking and selling in the body parts of bald eagles. And they were harvesting and selling bald eagle body parts across the country for profit. And they have been vigorously investigated and indicted and prosecuted by the U.S. Department of Justice. And yet, meanwhile, it's been 2 years, and Planned Parenthood still hasn't been indicted or prosecuted for harvesting and selling the body parts of tiny preborn children. And you would think that, especially under a pro-life administration, that surely the body parts of unborn children and the trafficking and selling of baby body parts is just as horrific and just of as much concern as the harvesting and selling and trafficking of bald eagle body parts. So, you know, we did get some good news about a year ago. It was announced by the U.S. DOJ that they had opened an active criminal investigation of some of the biggest Planned Parenthood affiliates in the country, plus their business partners, based on the criminal referrals from the congressional investigations that were very good and very thorough. So it's been about a year now. The public hasn't heard anything since, but I do hope that if someone as experienced as Attorney General Barr were to be confirmed, I mean, maybe not even before the confirmation, but really it's been a year now, and I think it's important for people to see that nobody is above the law, and DOJ should do their job on this the same way that they're doing their job on eagle body parts, should be done on baby body parts as well.
We'll bring you part 2 of our interview with David Daleiden next week.
So that gives you a little bit of insight into what David has done. Some of you are asking more about him. He set up this group called the Center for Medical Progress. And, he was going in there pretending to be somebody who wanted to arrange for the purchasing of these body parts. Universities use them, researchers use these brains and these legs and these hearts. And so he set up this dummy corporation and was able to get a lot of information from going undercover with these folks that are doing these terrible things, which is technically against federal law. The killing of the babies isn't, but the selling of their parts is. And that's who David is, and that's what he did to expose this. Now, the good news is, some of you are asking me, what about what's the result of all this, all the fallout? Congress did do an investigation. They did recommend further action by the Department of Justice. And it is still in the hands of the Department of Justice to further deal with Planned Parenthood for doing this. And so things are being done. It takes time. It takes a lot of time. But we recently had a letter from a number of pro-life senators, and I expressed support for it as well, to the Department of Justice asking for an update. Now, I also speak with various people within the administration regularly and have raised the same question. So we will get an update about this, and certainly I hope that is soon. And it's not something that's being ignored. I can tell you that, and that's the good news here. That we are, it's never gotten this far. Remember, I told you 20 years ago, this baby body parts business was uncovered through the work of our friends at Life Dynamics, Mark Crutcher, and I worked with him on that. And at that point, Congress was, they listened to what was going on, but they just weren't ready to take the action that needed to be taken. And things were different, now. I mean, in 2015, one of the big differences, of course, has been, two big differences. The development of social media, because that really, that made this an instant viral phenomenon. And secondly, just the political winds blowing more in our direction. Remember, this was just before the election of President Trump that these videos came out. So it's the pieces, the right pieces were in place for this to get a whole lot more attention, a whole lot more action. So it's not finished yet, and we hope that these investigations that Congress recommended and that the Department of Justice has been doing will bear some good fruit and some punishment for the people that, not for people like David, who uncovered this stuff, and Sandra Merritt, but rather for Planned Parenthood and the abortion industry. All right, well, you know what? There's so much more to be said. I just remembered that I hadn't finished answering or commenting on one of the comments before. I think it was from Phyllis about how someone she knows was coming out. I think a friend of her daughter's is going to come out and vote for President Trump, and she had never voted before. And what I was going to say about that is simply this. This is how he was elected. 6 million people in 2016 in the election who voted for President Trump, out of the 63 million that voted for him, but 6 million people had never voted before or hadn't voted in over a decade. And the reason that the results were so different from what the polling was indicating is that these polls use models, they use projections, they use estimates. They're basically not just counting the answers to the questions they ask, they're also making educated guesses about who is likely to come out to vote. The structure and the reliability of the poll depends on the reliability of those educated guesses. They didn't see it coming. They still don't see it coming. That all these people who hadn't been voting, so they weren't likely voters. You know, a lot of these calls, who are they calling? Who are they talking to? Likely voters. When you see polls, it's, oh, you know, here's what this poll said. Well, I mean, sometimes they don't even ask likely voters. They just ask, you know, adults, or some of them ask registered voters. But you know what's better to do is to ask likely voters, and what's even better is to ask people who voted last time around. But what was happening was the pollsters were identifying who they thought were likely voters, and meanwhile, the people who came out to elect the president were the unlikely voters. That was the surprise of 2016. And the polling models and projections are still not taking account of these unlikely voters. And so that's what's going on here. That is exactly what is going on here. And so let's scroll back. I saw another comment I wanted to say something about. Yes, we must take back the House, increase the Senate. Oh yeah, Henry is talking about the 36% positive rating among African Americans. That is very strong. And as you say, it is much higher than in 2016. You know, the other thing, the president's approval rating, you know, it has been up very high. And, you know, just recently we saw it go to 51%. You know what his approval rating was on the day he was elected in 2016? 37%. And it went down the next day. It went down. No, this is he's doing very, very well. He's doing very, very well. The other side is always going to want to create the impression that he's not. And in some ways, you know, that can help us. It can help us if it motivates us to get out there and make sure, like I was saying before, that we're registered, that we're getting other people registered, that we're informing people, getting them out to the polls. And don't be distracted, again, by issues of personality. It's not about the personalities. It's about the policies. It's about the judges. It's about the courts. It's about, you know, all these things, and 97% approval rating from Republicans. He has really united the party. He has united the party like never before. That is an incredible, I mean, it really doesn't, you know, for all practical purposes, it really doesn't get any higher than that. You know, hardly anything in life is 100%. It's just fabulous what's going on. It really is. He's bringing the economy back, brothers and sisters. He's bringing the economy back. And the African American vote, you know, he has done so much for the African American community, and our colleague Alveda King here on our Priests for Life ministry is talking about this all the time. Prison reform. He got prison reform done. He gave unprecedented support and funding to the historic black universities and colleges. He did get, before this pandemic came, the African American unemployment rate to its lowest point in history. I mean, it's just one thing after another. He is helping this community, and you can point to these very specific things that he has done. He has African Americans, of course, in his cabinet. You got Dr. Ben Carson, for example. And then, you look at all these accomplishments, and well, they speak for themselves. And this is why, as people learn more and more about what has been going on, they support him more and more. Now, Christine is bringing up something that I wanted to. First of all, Dale is saying something very important. Vote in person, brothers and sisters. And to the extent that you can. Obviously, some people are homebound. Some people are not going to be in their voting district on Election Day. You vote ahead of time by absentee. We're not saying there's anything wrong with that. But this scheme of the mail-in ballots, now that's different from, if you're going to vote absentee, you go ahead and you request from the Board of Elections your ballot ahead of time. Oh yes, George, thank you. He created the opportunity zones, and in conjunction with Senator Rick Scott over there, and so many great things going on with that. So, when you request a ballot, you're saying, hey, I'm here, I'm alive, here's who I am, give me my ballot, and then I'm going to send it back in. But with this ballot mail-out scheme that the Democrats want to push on the whole country, what this ends up doing is just to take a database, and they just say, okay, we're going to send the ballot out to all the people on this database. They're not even requesting it. We don't even know if they're alive. Or are the people going to get multiple ballots? Where are the ballots going to end up? Is there going to be fraud in the delivery of the mail? Is there going to be intervention by people who want to mess up the election, grabbing these ballots and manipulating them? And it opens the door to all of that kind of thing. And that's why going in person is going to be the best way to preserve the validity of your vote and others. Help other people get to the polls. That's very important. And the time to get there in person is throughout the whole voting season. Early voting begins very early. In North Carolina, the first state, when you can start voting with the absentee ballot, September 4th. In just a few weeks, the voting begins, technically speaking. Don't think of just Election Day about being November 3rd. It's now. It's here. So let's work together. Let's make sure that we're not only getting people to vote and to vote in an informed way, in a responsible way, but that we are, in as much as possible, get there in person. All right. Well, there's so much more to say, but it's getting late, and I thank you for your attention. I thank you for this conversation. We'll be back again tomorrow. We'll have the Mass at 10 in the morning. We'll have our discussion at 9 o'clock at night, and we'll have a lot of good other programming during the course of the day. So keep tuned in with us. Tomorrow is Wednesday, so you'll have Alveda King's program coming on in the afternoon, and that's something to be watching out for. We have the Rosary at 3 p.m., and then Alveda comes on at 3:30 every Wednesday. So may the Lord bless you, protect you, answer all your prayers, and make you strong defenders of the unborn. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Father Frank Pavone here of Priests for Life. Thanks for joining me, and have a good night.